Three documentaries, three investigators, three stories of paranormal activity. For a long time, the question has been, what is the paranormal? Are they isolated events, or are they all connected? Tonight, we attempt to answer that question, and we ask ourselves, what are we dealing with? Ghosts, aliens, cryptids, UFOs, or are they all manifestations of the same thing? Welcome to Everything Vaguely Paranormal. Welcome to Everything Vaguely Paranormal. I am Ryan Roberts, and these are my partners in the paranormal, Blake Smith and Shelley Pruitt.
Hola.
And tonight we are going to be talking about a couple of documentaries that we've been watching recently and how they've kind of changed everything we think about the paranormal. I mean, wouldn't y'all say so?
I would definitely say that they have raised some questions in my mind of what I thought I believed.
Yeah, and it's true that we're going to tell you about the ones that we have watched that led to hours, plural, hours long discussions on some of these when we get talking about them. And we were like, hey, why don't we share, since we talked to our documentary filmmaker last week, why don't we share some of our documentaries that have caught our eye, that we're really kind of we look forward to, that we told the other two, you've got to go watch this. So that's we thought we'd let you guys in on some viewing on your downtime when you aren't watching us, that you can go and watch.
Yeah, like we have watched these documentaries and it has raised so many questions. God, we have spent hours upon hours upon hours just like saying, well, what do you think about this? Well, okay, well, this said this, but what do you think about this? I mean, so this is going to be kind of like you're in on one of our phone calls this evening.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how many debates. We like to use the word debate. It's not an argument. As Shelley says, somebody walks away with their feelings hurt.
People walk away with their feelings hurt.
Yeah.
A debate is just, we're just like throwing out things and they get a little heated sometimes, like, no. You take this, you take this, you take this. And the other ones are like, no, but you're forgetting this. And we're like, oh, yeah.
So this moment, that's like your disclaimer. This is the moment you've just sat down on the plane, and that's the air stewardess is being like, your exits are here. That's your fair warning that there might be one that might get a little bit rough, but we'll be friends at the end of it afterwards.
Yeah, don't worry about us. We're all good. Trust me, we're probably not saying anything we haven't said in a phone call. But that's what makes it interesting, is that we each have our own unique view and perspective on some of the occurrences that happen in some of these documentaries. So should we just lead it off?
Absolutely.
Should we just jump right into it?
Yeah, I think, Shelley, you've got the first documentary up on the docket, and it was called Sleepless Unrest, correct?
That is correct. Sleepless Unrest. And this is one that's relatively new, and you can find it on Discovery Plus. And this one follows 4 paranormal investigators that decide that they are going to spend 2 weeks at the Conjuring House.
They are some brave people. I'm going to say that much. 2 weeks
there. 2 weeks at the Conjuring House. And the thing about this is that in 2019, the Conjuring House went up for sale. And it was purchased by Corey and Jennifer Heinzen. And so they're the new owners. And once that they bought the house, they decided that because they had always wanted to go and investigate it, but it wasn't really they decided they were going to open it up for paranormal investigation. So gentlemen, when are we going? I'm sorry. Did I miss that part of our conversation?
Let's see here.
Soon?
Whenever y'all want to.
Soon?
I think I have like soon.
Okay, soon. Yeah, I was going to say, so these, it's 2 couples, and then they are joined by another investigator once they get there. So I'm going to give you guys the overview of it, and then we're going to talk about a few things specifically that happened in it. One thing I found so compelling that I called these guys, I'm like, guys, you have to go watch this because this is wild. So they're there for 2 weeks, and they basically do it in a documentary fashion where they're showing day 1, day 2, day 3, and right off the bat they start getting things. They show footage of a door closing on its own, not just closing, slamming, and they're going, okay, right off the bat. And there's this well also that is on the property of the Conjuring house.
What is it? Wells?
That's what I'm saying about wells. It seems like wherever there is a well in a home or in a bit like Bobby Mackey's, let's see, what was it?
The Hill
House Manor.
Yeah.
This place. I mean, there's been several other places where a well continues to show up. What is it about a freaking well and there just being some nasty paranormal activity in a place?
I don't know. But they had something they did. It was a really cool thing. And I'm thinking, why have we not thought to do this? They took, this is one of the really cool experiments they did. They took an EVP recorder that had a pressure and a movement sensor on it, and they sealed it in a plastic bag and they lowered it down into the well. They took a separate bag and put a camera in it and lowered it down so that it could watch. Now, they did find out in doing this that at certain times when things were happening in the house, that pressure sensor in there and would light up down underneath this water. Now, I don't know if I don't recall if they were caught in EVPs. I don't recall watching or hearing that in their evidence that they caught any EVPs. I would assume that if they had, they would have shown it.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting to me that at some points that whenever they're documenting stuff inside, this pressure sensor and this indicator is going off under the water in the well.
You know, that's kind of interesting because, and it kind of harkens back to something we covered recently, because I remember when I was reading the Mothman Prophecies book, there was a time where paranormal activity began to increase, and they said that there was a change in air pressure whenever that happened. And that's interesting because, like, you know, we always hear about the electromagnetic field changing, or we always hear about, like, you know, it getting heavy or feeling light, but, you know, you never really think about measuring the actual air pressure whenever you're investigating somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, the best you've got your KT meters, which is measures static energy. And that's kind of what you go off if something's happening. Now, I will tell you, I did not realize that the Conjuring house was close to being, they said, almost 300 years old. Is that possible?
Yeah.
God almighty.
Close to, yeah.
Yeah. And it is in Rhode Island. So, but I did not realize that it was almost that old.
I didn't either.
I actually went back and listened to that again to make sure that I did not mishear it.
Yeah, no, you didn't mishear it. Yeah, that's exactly what they said. It's close to 300 years.
So there have been some really cool things that they did catch in this documentary, and you know me, I'm all about the evidence. Tell me a good story. You know, they were watching some footage of, they had been in a different room, and I didn't know there was a birthing room in there, and they turned this birthing room into one of the bedrooms. And this couple that slept in there, they had come down, they were all making breakfast and having breakfast, and they decided they're going to refuse the footage because they hear, excuse me, they hear something banging around, and they had heard footsteps. They catch this mist that goes across, and it's child size. Whenever it first crosses the bed, it actually almost looks like it's an apparition. Then it kind of floats up and it goes, but it crosses the entire room. And I'm going, what the actual what? That's really effing cool. And and they watched this and they watched this, and this was a very cool piece of evidence. No one was in the room. They set up cameras everywhere so they didn't catch any, they didn't miss anything, that they could catch everything that came through. And that just absolutely floored me. I'm going, that is so good. Now the owners, I could not figure out, excuse me again, if the owners actually stayed there during the investigation or
no. I don't think so, because I remember him saying that I know they own the home. I don't think they stay there, because I remember, like, a part in the documentary, he said that he was at home talking to his neighbor, and the neighbor started experiencing parents. So that was one of the owners of the house. So I don't think they live on site. I think they live somewhere down the road.
Okay, because it seems like on day 2 or day 3, the owners were back at the house, and maybe they were just coming to check on them. I don't know.
I think they themselves are paranormal enthusiasts, I think, and so they kind of like hang out and investigate.
Yes.
But
so the owners were there, and the lady Jennifer, one of the owners, says, this is a hollow space. She goes, we've never opened it, and they're like, can we open it? I was going, oh my gosh, this is my spirit animal. No. They're like, can we open it? And they go, sure, it probably just leads to the attic, but we've never opened it. Here they come with their drills, and they start pulling the screws out, and they open up this attic. And funniest thing, one of the guys goes, stick your head up there. And he says, I will the hell not. Stick my head up there and look around.
He's more willing to sacrifice his arm with like a camera than.
Well, my thought is, whenever that happens, is like, maybe that damn thing is closed for a reason.
And that's something I always think in these older houses too, especially if your house is damn near 300 years old. If you got a secret door or a little piece of wood that's screwed into the wall, I don't know. Maybe you don't open it. It's kind of like when they find these damn cursed sarcophaguses in Egypt. Just leave them the hell alone.
Yeah.
We've already gone through enough shit. Just leave it alone.
Yeah. Some things are not meant to be opened.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you know what? I would still open it. I would have been right there with them. Oh, can we open it? Can you go ahead and take those screws off? And of all things, it's the girl who kind of wiggles up there. They send the chick up. I'm like, more power to you, honey. Get your ass up there. She gets up there, and they decide that they're going to put a REM pod in there and a camera and an EVP recorder, because since it hasn't been opened, they thought something might want to communicate, and they leave it. They leave it for the entire time they're there. They change out the batteries, everything like that, but they leave it up there recording. And so whenever they open this, they find a hand-forged nail. Literally a hand-forged nail. And one particular investigator takes a big liking to this nail, and he's like all impressed with it. That's what he wants to talk about, is this hand-forged nail. So we move on. Now, the nail is important later. So because the Conjuring House sits in the area where King Philip's War happened, and that happened in the 1600s, and it was known as it still is, the bloodiest war per capita ever in the United States.
Yep.
That the land was literally soaked with the blood of men. And that's part of the reason they think that area could be really active, really haunted, was the amount of death and just awful, horrible things that happen in war. And those men's blood were spilled right there fighting King Philip's War. So the cool thing about this documentary was they not only investigated the inside of the house, they also investigated the outside of the house. And one of the things that they showed that I found intriguing was there had been an investigator there prior, and he had taken a spirit box, an SP7, out, and he was going to find there was this slab where something had been built that the parent children used to go and play at. They would go off into the woods, and he had been told about it, but he didn't know where it was, and nobody else seemed to know where it was. And he was like, I've been told like it's somewhere, in this area. He was real general about it. He says, let's see if the spirits will tell me. And he starts asking left, right, straight, where do I go? And it led him, by saying left, right, straight, it led him to that slab. And he goes, oh my gosh. And you can tell he's genuinely stupefied that he found it. He goes, oh my. Yeah. I think I found it.
And it is clear on that documentary too. Like, it comes through absolutely crystal clear, because he'll stop and say, okay, where do I go next? Right. Like, and it sounds just like we're sitting here talking. It's that clear.
Yep.
So exactly, and that to me was crazy. I was like, okay, that's when I knew I had to tell you guys about it. But the thing that I called to tell you guys when I said you aren't going to believe what I saw in this documentary, they're all sitting at a table, and they're talking, discussing everything, and everybody's got cameras rolling. One guy in particular has got a camera, and it's facing towards the kitchen, and everybody else is kind of facing the opposite direction. They're around the table, and this huge bang happens. They all look one direction, and as they look that direction, the one guy that has the camera that's facing towards the kitchen, there's a door there, and something comes up into that door and backs away, and you see this mist-like figure just come up to this door, and then it goes away. But all of them swear that the door on the other side of the room slammed. They all look the opposite direction.
Yep.
Yet behind them, here comes something up and goes away from that door. I must have run that back 20 times.
I did
and
too.
I'm looking to see if that's actually a face or a mist or whatever. And the thing is they don't even realize it. However, the guy with the camera goes, as soon as everybody kind of gets their wits back about him, which doesn't take long, he goes hot footing it towards the kitchen. And they're like, no. It was this door over here. He's like, no, it was something over here. So he was the only one facing that direction. And I'm telling you, I ran that thing back and I ran that thing back and I kept looking and I kept looking. And I'm going, that is not a person. That is too fast. It comes in too fast. Why the distraction? That's what I couldn't figure out. Why the distraction of making a noise over here to make them all go this way, only to come up and sneak up on them from behind? That unnerved me.
Well, I think it's part of that trickster element, that we talk about when it comes to the paranormal, because they all look this way when the actual action is happening over here on this side of the room, and luckily there happened to be a camera that actually caught it this time, because 9 times out of 10, y'all notice as well as I do,
never know
it would be right off camera.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I ran that thing back, and I was trying to screenshot it because if they're faking it, I'm gonna figure it out. And I'm zooming it in and I'm cropping it out and I'm getting this guy. Could not figure it out. Could not figure out how it happened. It was so fast. And what's funny is that one of the guys actually ends up going out that door just to look.
Yeah.
And the other guy goes out the other door just to look, just to make sure nobody's outside messing with him or anything like that. And so that's why I'm like, guys, okay, here's your new one. Here's your homework. And I had to call him about that. Now, after that, they decided they're going to go outside and investigate. And there was a really cool toy that, gentlemen, I would really like to get. Okay. So
we're going to have to get a GoFundMe for that.
I'm telling you. So what this it was called an EMCC, which is basically, it is a government issued camera that it detects everything from counterfeit money to viruses. Okay. And what it does is it works. It's an electron multiplying camera that detects photon events.
And basically, you got it. And basically it multiplies them so that you can see them on a bigger level, like within the field of the camera.
And this investigator had adapted it for paranormal investigations. And this was probably one of the coolest pieces of equipment I've seen. It was catching all kinds of fun stuff. And whenever they went outside to investigate, they were getting knocks in the woods. They were knocking, something was knocking back. But something that was very cool were the lights.
Yeah.
The lights. These lights would appear to come on and off in random places. And, of course, I'm going, it's somebody in the woods jacking with them. It's knocking, whatever. They didn't run immediately over to try to dispel the knocks, so they would let a little time lapse. They would stand still. Oh, we heard another knock. And then these lights, and I'm going, somebody's out there messing with them. I'm like, whatever. But then one appears like really high, taller than what a human would be. It's almost above the tree line. And we're going, okay, well, that's not a faked one because it looked just like all the other ones. What do you guys think about that part?
They're seeing it with their eyes, but they're also they don't realize that the photon camera is also catching this at the same time when they're seeing the flashes. Now, what were those flashes? That's what's sticking with me, number one. Number two, something else that kind of stuck with me about this is the knocks. The knocks are usually synonymous with Bigfoot activity. And it's like, so what does that have to do? Why are we getting knocks when this home is supposed to be haunted? Now, we know the land it's not just the home, it's the land. But, I mean, which leads me to believe, and this is what I think, and I want to know what you guys think about this, because with all of, because, about the whole Conjuring haunting, Bathsheba and all that stuff. Blake, you're an expert on that. I think
that's my shit.
I know that's your thing. I'm saying which leads me to believe that it's not necessarily someone. Now, and unless I'm wrong, and Blake, you can correct me on this. Is there a documented person who lived in that house with that name?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
so I'll say that from what I have found,
she was the caretaker that allegedly.
But there was a Bathsheba that was there. Yes.
Okay. Well, playing into that, I think that it's native. I think that natives on that land may have, I don't know, curse is not the right word I'm looking for, but I think that what is haunting that land is probably native in origin. That's what I think. What do y'all think? Because, I mean, it just seems like there's a lot of different type of activity. What was the King Philip's War makes sense to me too, because I know there were a lot of Native Americans involved in that. I think that maybe the haunting origin could be native. What do y'all think?
For me, it's one of those things. This is just kind of a personal opinion type thing. But when you have such traumatic events in a certain location or on a certain piece of property where blood is shed, innocent blood basically being shed, so to speak, over a war, over stuff like that, it in my opinion attracts that type of energy to come there. So I think with that much trauma that happened on that land and in that area with King Philip's War, as well as I'm sure that there was other types of wars or other types of massacres that probably happened as colonization was going on in the area. Because if I remember correct, is that the one that, I don't remember if it's in the documentary, Shelley, correct me if I'm wrong, that they said there might have been Indian mounds around, or am I thinking of another documentary?
I don't recall that in the documentary.
I think it was another documentary.
But it was about the Conjuring house. This other documentary that you...
No. It may have been a completely documentary.
Ryan, you know how we get. We watch all these documentaries. I was guilty of it the other night because I told you one of the investigators of this one was somebody else, but that's only because I watched his documentary right after and it rolled right in, and I just put the two together because they're both big dudes with red beards, and so in my mind that was the same person. But I don't recall that.
Okay.
In there,
I think that just from what has happened on the land, it's one of those that I'm just a believer that trauma and traumatic events attracts negative things, in my opinion.
But the knocking though, the big, I mean, we're not saying it's because they never said it was Bigfoot in the documentary. No, that's not what they said. But I'm just extrapolating based on like everything.
That's the first thing I thought too.
Yeah.
Well, see, and you two, and I'll go on record and say this: y'all two know a lot more on the cryptid side of things than I do. I'll put that out there, and the Bigfoot side of things. Not ashamed to say that. A lot of my expertise lies within hauntings and paranormal and stuff like that. So that wasn't the first thing that I jumped to, unlike y'all. To me, it was just kind of, I don't know. It's hard to explain, because at the same time, if that's the way that I think with all this trauma and negativity and bringing this negativity in, then what is causing the knocks? Is it something that is just playing? Is it that trickster element? That it's like, oh, you can do it, I can do it too. I can see where y'all are at on it being more along the lines of bringing Bigfoot into it, so to speak.
You also had those light flashes in the woods too. So like that's what. and that's why I'm kind of
associated with UFO activity.
It is, so. And that's why that's why I'm leaning more towards native energy being on the land and possibly contributing to the haunting.
What does a native have to do with the little green man?
Well, what I'm saying is like a lot of, like
I challenge them.
She does.
That's why they keep me around.
I'm saying, like, because a lot of, I don't know, like a lot of sacred Native American sites, there could be, there's like a lot of legends of,
are you subscribing to the ancient alien theory where
not necessarily,
the Native Americans worship the things in the sky?
No, so what I'm saying though is like, if you look at like a lot of like Native American legends and things of that nature, you have a lot of things that talk about like, Bigfoot, like hairy men and Bigfoot, and talk about like ghost lights and stuff like that. So I don't know, like, and so a lot of that times those sites are sacred to them, because there's something there that they've encountered already. They know there's something there, so they kind of like revere the land and just kind of stay away from it, or are very respectful of it. So I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but that's just kind of where I'm leaning towards it. But I could be completely wrong there.
I just see a question burning in Shelley's eyes.
Go ahead.
Or a comment.
Well, what I wanted to do, and maybe one of you guys know the answer to this. Are we sure it wasn't swamp gas? Because that's
in the
got
wintertime?
a lot of water. I don't know. Are swamps gassy year round? I don't even know. I don't know anything about swamps. That's what I'm saying.
I think the conditions have to be exactly right in order for swamp gas or whatever.
It puts that whenever you get those swamp gas lights, that's because of the bioluminescence of some of the algae and stuff like that put off that actually give an appearance of a light.
In the wintertime, in the dead of winter, though, I would say that'd be more apt. And I could be wrong. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a scientist, so I could be wrong. It could be, I would say that'd be more apt to happen in the summertime than it would be to happen in the wintertime, because I think you have more algae blooms in the summertime and the spring whenever it's warmer, and that could be giving off more gas. In the wintertime, I don't, and plus where they were, it wasn't swampy land. It was more like pine forest, and there was moving water. It wasn't like swampy, stagnant water.
Like I said, I didn't know the conditions around the land. I've never been. I haven't been able to see it, but we're going to rectify that. I was just curious if we knew anything else about the terrain, because I am not familiar, and I don't recall seeing anything other than directly outside the house. There was no filming going up to it. There was no aerial view of it, so that you could actually see the condition. You can't really see how close any other houses may or may not be for somebody to be messing with them and knocking back and that kind of thing. I'm not going to call that knocking back as being a paranormal capture, because there could have been somebody there here, and people are staying 2 weeks Conjuring House. And
so from the couple of things that I have seen about it, whenever I have seen aerial shots of the land itself or anything like that, I don't see anything that would warrant the label of a swamp. I've seen footage of people driving up to the house, of aerial shots over the house. There's nothing that I look down upon that and go, okay, that's a little mucky, swampy type area there. It is very like pine forest, type area around it. And to answer your question about the neighbors, there are some shots in documentaries that I have seen that there are neighbors just back behind.
So those
house.
knocks, being that they were exactly right after they happened, that could have been someone messing with them. Now, the lights too, I wasn't convinced about until that one appeared almost over the top of the tree line.
Well,
explain that.
The thing about the lights that I was going to say is, there are spots on this planet where, for lack of a better term, Earth lights appear. Like, I think there's one in Brazil. I know the Marfa lights, and the one that I'm most familiar with, because I've seen them with my own eyes several times, are the Brown Mountain lights. Now, that's not swamp gas. They know that. Right. They know that for a fact. But scientists are still, the jury's still out on what that could be, what that is. They don't really know. The best theory that I've seen that they could come up with is somehow the Earth is releasing plasma, that
I've heard that theory as well.
That turns into these balls of light that people are seeing flying around in Brown Mountain. So, with all the energy that is swirling around on this land, that could possibly be what's happening. You don't normally see that with your naked eye. It just maybe the conditions were completely right for them to see that there, and the photon camera is picking that up. So could it be paranormal activity?
Too, so.
That's what I'm saying too. Like I said, I've seen the Brown Mountain Lights with my eyes as well, and many people have. We
will call it unexplained phenomena then.
That's what I'm saying. Like, is it paranormal? I don't know, but it's definitely unexplained because they don't know what exactly causes it and what exactly it is. They don't know what it is.
Right.
But with all that going on at the same time, they're getting all this activity. It could just be a release of energy from within the earth or from within the land somehow, or
what, like the earth pooted or something?
I don't know.
Pretty much. That's the way I'm going to put it.
That's okay. All right. So we can move on. So whenever you get, another part, because if not, if we can, how we can get tied up in this, and I want to have time for y'all's, So we're going to call it unexplained phenomenon, the Earth's Putin. I don't know. So while the guys are investigating in the woods, they allow the chicks to go by themselves because they're like, oh yeah, we left the chicks in the barn. Okay, so the chicks are in the barn, and the chicks are they're investigating the barn. They are getting strange sounds. Their equipment is malfunctioning. They're having all kinds of issues. This tone that comes that comes across their equipment. Their cameras are messing up. The guys come to get them, and they're telling them everything. And then the day ends. Everybody goes to bed. This was on like one of the last nights they were there. So on day 14, you see them leave. They have successfully done their 2 weeks at the Conjuring House. But that's not the end of the documentary. All of them pop back on, and this is added at the end of the documentary. And they're all filming a couple of weeks after. They all have 3 of the same things happen. They're all experiencing vivid dreams and or nightmares. They're all having seen shadows. All of them are reporting seeing shadows. They are all reporting dreams that are odd, unfamiliar, things they've never dreamt of before, dreams of being put back at the Conjuring House. Now, all of them report this. And here's what they did. There is a reason that you should never take anything from a haunted location. One of the gentlemen, he says he was gifted a doll. So I guess the owners gave him a doll, and he brought it home. So he brought it home from the Conjuring House. One of the female investigators brought home some dirt from the Conjuring House. And then there's where that hand-forged nail comes back in. The guy took the hand-forged nail from the Conjuring House. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I ain't taking dick from a haunted location. It
Absolutely
ain't
not.
Nothing.
Especially that one.
No.
Nothing. Nothing.
Shelley, if I remember correctly, at Yorktown, you were like, "Oh, child, I'm taking my shoes off and putting them in this bag because I don't even want the dust from inside on the
don't
bottom
even want
of my
the dirt.
Shoes."
That's right.
In my car.
That's right. That's right. And I have also at locations when things have been nasty, I have taken off my shoes and washed the bottom of the soles with a bottle of water just to make sure I don't track anything with me. Because I don't play with that.
We've had one investigator kick their shoes off and leave them in the parking lot.
Yes, we have.
Them in the parking lot.
I know.
Did not want to drag.
I was asleep in that parking lot, and I woke up and I saw shoes sitting in the parking lot, and I was like, who left their shoes behind? Oh well, And I think I had to ask one of y'all where they came from, but
yeah,
and that's something you just don't do. You just don't do it.
No.
After they had done it, they begin to have very bad things happen. Probably the most disturbing thing, and you know me with kids, that's my freaking weak spot. The man who was gifted the doll, he videos his little girl running, crying into their room, she is inconsolable. She's saying that the big scary voice,
I think
it
she said
scared
a
her.
Grinch voice is what she said, is what
Yes.
scared her.
And she said, it scared me. And then she said, he's scary. This child, their child, is now experiencing crap that had to have come from the Conjuring house. The innocent is experiencing this. And I'll tell you, that bothered me. That bothered me really bad. Go ahead.
The one guy had activity happen while he was even talking about it. Remember the guy with the hat, and he started hearing knocking on the wall.
That's the guy whose little girl it is.
Yeah, because he was just like, talking about it, and he's just like, "What the hell is that?" While he's talking, something starts pounding on his wall. So yeah, you don't take anything from a haunted location. I don't care if it's as small as a pebble. You are asking something to come with you if you do that.
Well, first of all, you're technically stealing. You wouldn't think a rock or anything like that would be a big deal. You're technically stealing from whatever thinks that is its possession, the building or whatever, the land. You're stealing, because it didn't say here have a rock. It didn't say here have some dirt. Even though the doll was gifted by the owners to one of the investigators, no thank you. I appreciate it. No thank you.
Yeah.
I was actually floored by that. They all seem to be seasoned paranormal investigators. They all appeared to know what they were doing, and to make an error in judgment like that, I maybe they just wanted something. You want to take a picture. That's on your phone. You take it. It's yours.
Well, they didn't talk about it, but what if they were compelled to take it?
That's one thing that I was always kind of wondering what if it was just something about it that they felt they had to, more or less, that something while they were there, like Ryan just said, compelled them to take the things.
3 of the 4? 3 of the 4 were compelled.
I mean,
and that one
they
who
had
didn't,
spent
and then
2
that
weeks
one
there.
extra. Well, and then the other gentleman that joined them didn't take anything. And why, at the point that you're in the car, hey, look what I brought. Why didn't the other person go take that shit back? Or why, after, if they were compelled, why after, whenever they begin to drive away, because we all know that sometimes the farther you get from a location, the less influence it has over you. Why didn't they go, oh crap, no, we got to take this back. We got to get rid of this. No. What were we thinking? Because I have been around investigators who have taken things, and I have taken the crap back the next day. I'm like, what did you do? No. And I have taken things back that, investigators didn't think it'd be a big deal. And you're like, yes, it is. Don't do it. You are playing with your home and your destiny and your life if you choose to steal from a spirit.
Yeah, you will have problems if you take something from a haunted location willingly. Now if they have a gift shop or something, that's not taking.
That's different. That's different, because you are not
Yeah.
taking, you are purchasing.
Yeah,
There is an exchange.
but yeah,
And I think that's what it comes down to. I think it is viewed in the spirit world as you are stealing. Maybe that's why some of them are so aggressive about it. And even if you go, hey, can I have this? Unless you hear an audible, yes, take it. Leave that shit there. You don't need it. It's just crap. You're going to go, I can't remember where I got this from. Hell with it. And you're going to throw it away. And then if anything bad happens, you're not going to be able to return it because you're not going to know where it is.
Sure.
Now, and that team actually has another documentary that I would like to find. I don't think it's on Discovery Plus, but I would like to go find that documentary and see if they got any similar results or what happened on that particular investigation. But yeah, I mean, they were a really interesting team. I would like to see more. If they did something else, I would totally love to see more of what they do.
So the documentary is called Sleepless Unrest, and you can see it on Discovery Plus. And I would love to know what you guys think after you watch it. Email the podcast, let us know. Message us on Facebook and let us know what you think of Sleepless Unrest. So who wants to take the next one?
I guess I will.
All right.
Now, with this
Ryan,
one,
what did you watch?
With this one, I am going to try to keep it because there are so many rabbit holes to go down.
As concise as possible.
We aren't telling the whole story. We're going to give the overview.
There is no way I could tell this whole story because it is 2 seasons worth of something you need to watch, and they explore every aspect of the paranormal that you can possibly think of.
Yep.
And what I ended up watching was I watched Hellier season 1 and 2. I had watched the first season a couple of years ago. Whenever it first came out, and I had been meaning to watch season 2, and I finally watched season 2, and you can ask Shelly and Blake, like, I was always like, holy crap, they just talked about this thing. I never thought about this, just like texting them, and we were going on like long, like diatribes and like all these different, because like I said, when they cover everything, I mean, they cover everything.
Everything. Oh my God.
The basic beginnings, and this is kind of where the story goes, because I'm not going to give you everything because I could not in this amount of time possibly give you everything. But what happens is Greg and Dana Newkirk, they are.
We need to say Hellier is a town.
Hellier is a town. Yeah, Hellier is a town in Kentucky. So Greg and Dana Newkirk, they are paranormal investigators. They actually have the the Traveling Museum of the Occult that goes around.
Yep.
They're both co-founders of that. I believe Dana is the curator. They have been on Kindred Spirits. You've seen them before. They've been on there. They've been on several things on Discovery Plus. They've been all over the place. They've been around for a minute. They are very seasoned paranormal investigators. They receive an email one day from a man who is living in rural Kentucky in a town called Hellier. He says his name is David Christie, and that he is living. I believe him and his family had moved to this small town, and they were living way back up in the hills in Hellier. And at night, these little creatures were coming out of the hills and terrorizing him and his family. And he didn't know what to do, so he reached out to Greg and Dana Newkirk. And the best way this particular person described these creatures they were akin to the Hopkinsville goblins. And I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Hopkinsville goblins because it's definitely a case I want to cover in more detail later on. But that's what they looked like. There was a family one night back in the 50s or 60s, and they saw a bunch of lights on their property, got freaked out, and grabbed a couple of guns, and these creatures came out of the woods and tried to get into their home and were terrorizing them all night long, and a gunfight ensued, and it was a whole thing. So the guy who emailed them said that I believe his daughter was the first one to see them. She said that she saw the hairless children in the yard playing at night.
Boy, that'll freak you out. Your kids saying they're hairless children.
Yeah. She said, Daddy, who are those bald kids that were playing in the yard? And he was like, what are you talking about? And so then there were several other nights where she would come and she wouldn't sleep in her own room because these things were coming up to the window and tapping on the window. I believe they had gotten into his barn and had pulled like a lot of like toys and stuff out and like just like strode things all over his yard. And his dog had gotten out one night and just completely disappeared because his dog was seeing these things. And, much like what happened with the guy's dog with the Mothman, the dog got out. I
don't like these damn stories with freaking dogs disappearing.
No, the dog disappears. Now, so the guy is thoroughly freaked out. He doesn't know what to do. And he said that they had a mutual friend that told him to get in contact with them, a guy by the name of Terry Wrist. And which sounds like a total pseudonym, like it's definitely not a real name. It's somebody, going by another name.
Terrorist.
Terrorist.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but he said that he had, this David Christie guy said that he would pay for them to come out there and investigate and see what these things were, because he was just absolutely so scared, and that he didn't know what to do, other than the fact that he felt like he had tracked them to an abandoned mine shaft on his property. He thought that's where they were coming out of. And, that seems to make sense to me, because as they go along in this documentary and they're looking, they begin to find correlation between a lot of these cryptids that show up in Appalachia and a lot of UFO activity and a lot of weird like Men in Black activity and poltergeist activity seems to correlate with the Mammoth Cave system that runs right under Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, North Carolina, right under the Appalachian Mountains. And they all seem to kind of be clustered around these areas where there were openings in the Mammoth Cave system. And so that's one interesting thing that they found. Well, so Greg and Dana Newkirk don't hear from this guy for a while. And they decide that, they got to find this dude. They got to go to Hellier. They got to see if they can find this guy. And they go looking for him. And they go to look to see if they can find the house. And they stop at the gas station is like the center of town. And they go to the gas station and they're talking to these people. They're like, hey, do you know a guy by this name? Have you ever met a guy by this name? People are like, no, we don't even know who this person is. We've never even met somebody in this community with this name before. And the thing about it was too, is in the email, I remember him saying that he wanted to remain anonymous. So that could have also been an assumed name that he used in order to keep his identity undercover, because he said he was a doctor as well. And, if you're a doctor and you're telling people, hey, I'm seeing little green men coming out of the hills at night, it's going to ruin your practice. Right. So they go and they start looking for this guy and they can't find him. So they just give up. They're like, we can't find this guy. And then they receive an email from Terry Wrist that was basically like, you're so close. Why did you stop looking? And I think in the email, if I'm not mistaken, it said, when a door closes, a window opens. The window is open. Keep looking.
Yep.
And, and this happens so many times because it seems like whenever in this documentary, they hit dead end after dead end after dead end. But as soon as they hit a dead end, all of a sudden, like, he pops up. Or some sort of small detail that you wouldn't think meant anything all of a sudden becomes a major detail and the key, and they have to keep going. So they try email correspondence with these people, and every time they try these email correspondence, the emails bounce back. They can't figure out where these people are, if these people even exist. And at one point, I remember they ran a VPN check to see if maybe if we can use a VPN, we can see where this guy is emailing us from. Well, one of the VPNs came back from Canada. And at the time when they got the email initially, I believe Greg and Dana Newkirk were living in Canada, and it was like from 40 minutes from where they were. And they were so frustrated because they were like, damn it, this guy, somebody's messing with us. But another one of the investigators were like, well, he could have been using a VPN. You don't know. This guy is trying to remain hidden. And they go really into a lot of deep dives into a lot of things. And so they're trying to find who this Terry Wrist person may be. And they do all these deep dive researches, and they finally find his name pop up in this book by a man named Alan Greenfeld. And it's called The Secret Cipher of the Euphonauts. And it's talking about how to use Thelema, which is the religion that Aleister Crowley started, to decipher UFO codes and stuff like that.
It goes a little off the deep end right there.
It totally does. Yeah. But if you watch the whole series, it actually ends up coming back around and making sense. There's a lot of times you're left scratching your head. And you're like, I don't understand what this has to do with anything. But if you just keep watching, everything comes back around into each other and makes complete sense. But they end up finding this guy, and this is the only mention of this guy in this book. And then it starts going into, like I said, starts going into Thelema. It starts going into conspiracy theory. It starts going into all these UFO sightings and cryptid sightings and Mothman and Indrid Cold, and how they're all interconnected. And I could not begin to tell you how all these things are interconnected. You just have to sit down and watch this documentary. Sit down with it. You will not be disappointed. I mean, they go into Estes method. They use the spirit box to communicate with not even necessarily ghosts, but beings from another world. And which leads me to think the fact that they could use the spirit box and the fact that they could use equipment that we use in like ghost paranormal investigation. I think what we're dealing with, because everything in this documentary seems to lead you down the path to believe in, and also like has changed my opinion on paranormal activity to begin with, that everything is interconnected. Be it whatever paranormal activity you can think of, from point A to point B, whatever, it runs the gamut, that somehow they are all connected in some way, shape, or form. And what I think, and tell me what you guys think about this, based on everything that came out of this documentary, that we're dealing with beings that operate on another plane, so like interdimensional beings. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because what if the ghosts that we see and that we talk to and that we encounter are existing on the same plane as these cryptids and as these aliens, quote unquote, or whatever they are? I think that we're dealing with interdimensional beings. What do y'all think?
Shall I go for it?
No.
You don't think so?
No. No. I think that if you have something like Bigfoot, that is a creature. That is a creature. You know, I might be able to go with you on interdimensional, perhaps if aliens, space travel, far more advanced than we are, even maybe spirits, ghosts. But those are things that are advanced. Whenever you're talking about something like Bat Boy coming out of the woods, or Bigfoot, I think you're talking about a completely different thing.
Yeah, and I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just purely, like I said, just like UFOs, aliens, ghost activity, and
I'm good with all three of those, playing with that idea.
Yeah,
but not cryptids.
I mean, but do you? Okay, all right. I was gonna say, riddle me this.
Let's go. Try on.
Riddle me this. So,
here we go. The doors are opening, y'all.
So what if? Because okay, these UFOs people see are craft. They are craft that physical craft that people are seeing. Advanced physical craft that people are seeing. What if how they get into our world, or how they get into our dimension or whatever, what if it somehow tears open a hole and maybe something comes through with them, which is why you have a Mothman, which is why you have a Dover demon, or why you have or why you have a Hopkinsville goblin or something like that. Like, do you think that's possible? Because I'm with you. I understand what you're saying, because I'm with you where I think that a lot of what cryptids people seeing are actual like flesh and blood creatures. But when it comes to Mothman and stuff like that, I think that maybe that's something that could have tagged along and came through the doorway. Does that make sense to you?
So where are you saying they're ripping holes? Because if it's in the sky, shouldn't we have seen more things like falling? Oh, so where are you talking about we ripping a hole?
Like, I'm saying, like,
I mean, if they're zipping through, the hole has to open somewhere.
I'm saying, but what if we might not be able to see it with our naked eye? Like, okay, for instance, like, you and I both really enjoy Skinwalker Ranch.
Love Skinwalker Ranch.
We in the original book, the farmer who owned the home, if I'm not mistaken, it was him. Sorry, it was him. It was in the book where they were talking about how it was almost like there was a window open. They could see into a window that was open where these things were coming through. I think if I'm not mistaken, there was a physical doorway that they saw at one point. So what I'm saying is what if we can't see it, because somehow these things are popping into our field of existence, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Somehow they're popping in. There's a doorway somewhere that they're coming through somehow. What if when
there doesn't have to be?
Well, how are they getting here then?
Well, I think that Hellier's right on with the cave system having something to do with it. I think that a lot of what you're seeing are coming out of those caves, which is where I think that a lot of these, I mean, come on. There are places that have not been explored. They're under the water in the caves. There are deep, dark recesses that humans have not physically gotten back to. What's to say, just like any other animal trying to survive, that it hasn't hidden down there? I think every now and then you got to come out and see the sunshine. I think that is far more likely of a theory than there's some hole ripped somewhere and it's like a free for all, everybody running in the door. Enough like that shit.
Avengers!
Now, I will contradict myself on one portion. That perhaps I have seen those caught on camera videos, and I'm not still sure that they're real or not, where you've seen like pterodactyls flying in the air. Pterodactyls haven't been extinct. Really effing long time. Okay. And if there were pterodactyls on this earth, we probably would have found them by now, you'd think. But you've seen that you don't see it very often. There are that I might be inclined to agree with. Perhaps there is some kind of interdimensional rip. But again, I don't know. I think that
I'm not sure myself, because that's why I'm asking, because I'm just postulating the possibility that, because I'm with you where I think it's more highly likely that these things are living in cave systems and coming through, but I just can't. I don't understand how people. If we're going off of, I don't know. It's hard to ask. So you have
an advanced technology and advanced life forms and systems. Yeah. And me and my aliens love my aliens. Way smarter than us. But then you have this primitive Bigfoot, Mothman. They don't seem to like they would exist in the same.
But they often show up in tandem, is what I'm saying, and that's what's strange to me. Why are these things showing up in tandem together? Because around a lot of Bigfoot activity, stuff. You have UFO activity.
Again, don't know, but I don't think Bigfoot hopped off the UFO. I can't make that work in my head, because if so, why doesn't he look like them? I mean, what are they doing? Trying to give us our own little freaking zoo down here? And if so, why did they take it back? You give me a gift and you take it away. Fuck you. Yeah. Get on out of here, alien.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying though is, like, if they come through the doorway, possibly, and they leave the door open behind them, they forget to shut the door behind them. What if something comes through that doesn't necessarily, which I'll rewind.
Okay, if something follows it through, why doesn't something primitive? Why can't it find its way back out? Because obviously that door opens and that's what I'm saying. Why aren't there more?
Okay, and that's what I'm saying, because like a lot of the time, like the Mothman research that I did, the people who encountered Mothman, a lot of the people said that they felt like it was confused or sad, like it didn't know where it was. So maybe it came through with whatever was going on. Maybe there was a doorway open, or maybe it wandered out of the cave system and just showed up.
I'm gonna tell you this right now, Ryan. I hate to break it to you. People lie a lot.
Oh, I know that.
It looked like it was sad. Oh, fuck you. Whatever. We've all heard those people be like, I just got this feeling that I don't know. The dog was telling me that it was not happy. The dog did not tell you it wasn't happy. Fluffy wanted a damn treat. It's like, can I have a treat? And you gave in. I mean, come on. I
understand where you're coming from.
Your feelings, just their feelings are very important. But
I understand where you're coming from. What I'm saying is, I'm just like putting forward the possibility. What do you think? Like, I'm not saying that this is fact, because that's the one thing about this that we know, that we don't. This is not fact.
That's the whole point, is that none of it is factual. We're theorizing and postulating and trying to figure this out. I think that if they're able to come in a doorway, where did they go after that? If they get here, especially a more primitive, if we're saying primitive beings, like, our goblins and stuff, if they come in with an advanced entity, life form, technology, and then that door closes, I mean, they didn't have, hey, y'all get back to that door. I mean, what are they rounding them up and herding them back? Is that why we only see them every now and then? Do they pop them back away? That doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know.
One comes through. I don't think anything tries to round them up and take them back. I just, I don't know. I don't think that theory makes sense. I might go with advanced technology with the aliens and stuff. That would make more sense linearly in the scientific realm of, okay, this could happen, the physics, all this, all the stuff that has to happen to have that happen. And advanced technologies being able to manipulate that. Might go with you on that. But Bigfoot, he ain't figuring out how to unlock an interdimensional door. I don't know. And that boy certainly isn't.
This popcorn is so delicious, y'all.
Blake, chime in.
What I'm saying is like, no, he doesn't know how to unlock an interdimensional door. But what if he somehow by accident happens to trundle through and just like show up in our reality?
So every time somebody sees a Bigfoot, he's run through a door. And at this point, wouldn't his chick come looking for him? I mean, I know that if my guy was out I'm going to find his ass. I mean, wouldn't they? I mean, it has to have happened. He was right here, I swear. And that's not, I mean, come on. I don't know.
I'm like I said, I'm more apt to believe.
I know I'm being kind of silly about it, but that's kind of the way I'm viewing it. Is this, I don't understand how they get through, and then they magically disappear again until suddenly they figure out where the door is again, and they come back through, and then we don't like it here, and they run back.
I will tell you the craziest theory I've heard, and this one made me laugh, and this is gonna make y'all laugh too. No, it wasn't. It wasn't on Hellier, but this is when it comes to Bigfoot. There was someone, and I can't remember. I believe it was on one of the radio shows I was listening to, where someone said that they believed that Bigfoot was an ATV for extraterrestrials. Like they were piloting something like basically where like Bigfoot was a suit.
And there was
they
like
were piloting
little aliens
I'm going to
inside.
tell you right now, that makes more sense than they're trucking through an interdimensional doorway. Think about it. When astronauts go out into space, they wear spacesuits to protect them and make them in.
Very true.
Why Bigfoot though? That's what I'm saying. Like, why present yourself as a stinking ape?
Maybe it was the first thing they saw whenever they were here. Who knows?
I don't know.
Maybe when they pop through that interdimensional doorway, they went right into the gorilla cage at the zoo and been like, "Oh, this is what they look like. Okay, let's go make a suit, but ours is going to be bigger."
So, are you
3 or 4 of us?
Are you telling me that you believe that there are civilizations that live within the Earth and they come out and interact with humans?
I will.
You ever had rats, snakes, anything like that? That's another little population that's under there, comes out and interacts with us. Why can't there be?
I'm trying to clarify. Like, I just want to make sure. I'm not saying. Do you really believe that?
Let's go with a yes. Yeah. Let's go with a yes.
I do think that
that's where the lizard people live, don't you?
In the Earth.
Let's just throw another wrench on this.
Yeah. I do think that they. I mean, like I said, I think that there are definitely things out there in them caves that that are nasty that you don't want to encounter.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was just a question I wanted to throw out there.
We're gonna let Blake finally answer. How about that?
Mm-hmm.
So, oh God, that was a delicious snack. Oh my God.
You want some? Come on, Blake.
No, so actually yours and our whatever. Thank you. Words are hard tonight.
It's okay. I'm with you.
Our theory, we're very much in the same boat, Shelly. Like for me, I don't think it's all on one level playing field. I don't think that when it comes to like your Bigfoot, your cryptids, and all of that kind of stuff, I think that it has to do with a lot of where they habitate at, or where they're located at is shrinking and or non-explored. So it's forcing them more out into the open, with your Bigfoots being sighted and stuff like that. With your aliens, yeah, they may be getting here somehow with their advanced systems and shit like that, or time warp speed or whatever the hell it's called, through a black hole or something. That's fine. I don't think that they're coming on into like our planet and ripping this hole open and everything like that. I think they are traveling from other places. I am a firm believer that we are not the only ones in this universe. We can't be. It's almost impossible for us.
If
to be
we're the smartest thing in this universe is freaking doomed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
and then the last
real quick question. You're more apt to believe that they're coming from somewhere else rather than coming from here.
Like aliens and UFOs?
Aliens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm way more apt to believe that they are coming from a different planet, a different galaxy, a different, whatever you want to say. Spirits, demons, ghosts, whatever you want to call them, all of that, I can get on board about being on a different plane, interdimensional of some sorts like that. Especially when you throw in things like one of my favorite things that we have talked about before is like Shelley's doppelganger at Yorktown, which also is going to tie into your multiple realities going along the same lines. I think I use the doppelganger, even though I'm wanting to talk about ghosts and spirits, because I think it ties into it very well. What if in that moment that Shelley's doppelganger is being seen, that veil between the two realities or the two planes, whatever, or dimensions, is thin enough that we're actually seeing two Shelleys. We're seeing the Shelley on the other reality as well as in our reality. Same thing with spirits and ghosts. I think it's why we are able to interact with spirits and ghosts that are in Victorian clothing, that are in uniform, military uniform, somebody who just passed 2 years ago versus somebody who passed 300 years ago, because on this other plane there is no time, so to speak. Past, present, future is all in the same. So ghosts, spirits, demons, all that kind of stuff, I can get with you on being interdimensional. Cryptids, monsters, creatures, whatever you want to label them as, I think that they are already here. I think they're in places that are undiscovered and or are shrinking, forcing them out into the open. And as for aliens and UFOs, them some bitches are coming from somewhere else to our planet.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can get with that, but the question that I do have is why do these UFOs tend to show up around a lot of, or vice versa, cryptids tend to show up around UFOs, and UFOs tend to show up around cryptids. That's the connection that
they're nosy bastards.
Take it from what you were talking about at the very beginning of the episode, the very beginning of this broadcast, is that, and Shelley, you as well, you were talking about the stuff being down in the well, that they were registering the change in pressure. What if it is something in these moments where these UFOs are coming in, these aliens are coming in, and what they're doing in that area is causing some type of environmental change that these creatures, cryptids, or
it draws them out almost
are picking up on. It's just like when we walk in a building, we go, "Oh my God, do y'all feel that? Holy crap, and my skin's tingling."
Okay, so almost that's I get what you're saying. Almost like ringing in a dinner bell, because you're right. Like if you walk into a restaurant and you can smell that food, you're like, "Oh." Maybe it's like whenever they show up, they're changing something, and that's like ringing a dinner bell, and all of a sudden you kind of get these same things going on.
Yeah, and that's why it draws them out from wherever they're
already at. That's a good theory, Blake.
That makes sense.
Good theory.
And basically, that's why you're seeing UFOs with Mothman and vice versa, or Bigfoot or whatever.
So now we'll tell you something about Hellier. Is that whenever they go looking for this terrorist person, and they're one of their first encounters in Hellier, which fascinated me, was that the people they talked to, one guy cautioned them, and he goes, "You need to get out of." Did he say get out of town, or you need to stay out of the woods at night, and you need to get out of town, or be careful who you talk to in town?
There was some kind of crazy something going on in that particular town.
Yeah, but it was
the guy that gave them the map of the Mammoth Cave system.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So why would he caution them about being in town? That was never made clear to me, and I was just curious if either one of you guys remembered why he was telling them to don't stay in town.
Remember correctly, and like I said, it's there's so much with Hellier that, I mean, you go back and watch it again, you'll probably see 5 different things you missed the first time around. If I remember correctly, because remember there was that woman that called them who was in jail because she had dirt on some important people, basically.
Right.
And
big cover-up going on in the town.
If I remember correctly, what they were saying is there are people in town who have had contact with these beings that live in these cave systems, and they, I mean, for lack of a better term, I think it was like it wasn't. They didn't come out and say it, but it was implied that it was like almost like a cult, and that you should kind of be careful who you talk to.
Yep.
Because you could end up meeting one of these beings and not, not in a good way, So yeah, that was pretty interesting. I thought too. I mean, like when we say it runs the gamut, I mean it's from all over. I mean, and everything ties together. You'll be confused at certain points, and then you just keep watching because everything does come back together eventually.
I will tell you something about Hellier. Hellier, if the first episode or two to me was very, very fascinating. Mm-hmm. And then I was kind of like, okay, you're going off on this weird tangent that I can't get behind. I'm going, okay, but I'm going to watch. There are a couple that you fight through them because at the end of the first season, they do wrap it up. Now, I did not find the second season as interesting as the first season.
Oh, I did.
There were a couple of episodes that I found interesting, but on the whole, the second season of Hellier, I wasn't as gung-ho in. I did like the first, but again, there's a couple of episodes that you are going to have to fight through.
Yeah.
Because they are going to take a left and you're going, there is no reason to take a left here. I don't even see a left. You're like cutting through your own little territory here. So that is a word of caution whenever you go to watch this. Go ahead and fight through it and do pay attention because they do end up wrapping it all up. I liked season 1 and I was 50-50 on season 2.
I'll agree with
really
that.
Liked
I
51.
I like season 2 a lot, but like there were, like you said, there were a couple times where like they kind of went off.
They got bogged down
a little bit, and I was like, I don't necessarily know if that has anything to do. And then they brought it back around, but there were some things that just blew my mind, like absolutely blew my mind in it. But yeah, it is one of those things you have to pay attention. You absolutely have to pay attention. You can't. It's not one of those things you just throw on in the background while you're kind of halfway paying attention. You have to be invested.
Yeah, because
you'll get lost if you aren't. Because there's so much, and it's stuff that we understand because we're paranormal investigators. And like God, I've been reading about this stuff since I was a kid, and so we understand it, but even there were times where even as someone who understands the jargon and what they're talking about, I was just like, what?
I had to rewind a few moments.
Yeah. And then like, it just kind of brings, but let's say that like, because I kind of like spaced out and did something for a second and came back, but like, you have to sit down and be dedicated to the fact I'm watching this and I need to watch this. This isn't something I'm just putting on.
Yeah.
So
I agree. And the last one.
Where can they find Hellier?
You can find it on the first season. I know for sure is on YouTube. That's where I saw the first season. The second, I believe, the first and second seasons are on Amazon Prime.
They are. That's where I watched it.
So I would watch this too. Now, I do believe that Greg and Dana are working on something new that they were talking about putting out. They said it wasn't Hellier, but the door is open for a Hellier season 3 because I think they want to continue to go down that rabbit hole and try to figure out.
It's actually not
who these people are.
It's not quite confirmed yet. They will not confirm a season 3, but the door is open.
Yeah, the door is open. So I'm excited for a season 3. I hope a season 3 comes out because there are still some cliffhangers. I'll give you that. I'm just like, man, I just want to know what's going on. So it's worth your time. Like you really need to sit down and check out this documentary. But the last one.
The last one is probably what like reached up into my brain and scrambled it all around and was like, okay, now try and figure out a new way to understand the paranormal. So the last one that we're going to talk about, which is probably my favorite, it's a trilogy as it stands right now of documentaries. It looks like there might be a fourth one, so it could end up being a quintrilogy. I'm just kidding. I'm making up words here. a quartet
of
documentaries.
A 4-piece chicken nugget. But this one is called Sir NoFace. And it does take place in Australia, as you can tell right there on the screen. Very brief overview of this one, because this one is probably going to come with a lot of discussions between the three of us. What it is there is a paranormal investigator. His name is Chad Kalick, and he is on a tour for something that he has produced. He is down in Australia, and he goes on this like meet and greet, like kind of like a Paracon, if you will, so to speak. People coming in, they're discussing all this kind of stuff, but it's all basically geared towards his documentary stuff. So then they end up having him and the Whisper team, which is the, help me out here because I can't ever remember their damn acronym. It's like West South
Wales or something.
Yeah. Anyways, their paranormal research team down there. I apologize for butchering the name. Just gonna call him Whisper. Who is led by Craig Powell. And Craig Powell and Chad Kalick are basically in front of this group, and the whole basis of it is show them your best paranormal evidence. So Chad Kalick goes through his whole spiel, shows his best paranormal evidence, and he's about to walk out of the room, and he hears Craig Powell go, "Now what I'm going to show you next is a full body apparition." And of course he stops. I mean, I think that would make any paranormal investigator stop. And he turns and he turns around. At first he's kind of like, "Oh God," because we know full body apparition is
very rare.
The holy grail of paranormal investigating. And so basically what he sees is this footage, and it is shot on a island out in Australia called Cockatoo Island. It's in the Sydney Harbor. And the whole very brief history of this island is that it was at one point a prison where basically a lot of tortures and horrible things went on. We'll just leave
Most
it at
of
that.
Australia was a prison at some point.
Probably. And so the Whisper team, Craig Powell and his team, are out there investigating this location. They got requests from the Australian government actually themselves to go out and investigate this place because they were wanting to do like ghost hunts and open it up to the public and all that kind of stuff. They just wanted to make sure that it was legitimately haunted. What, Ryan?
I was gonna say, now that would kind of, that would be cool, but I would kind of be suspicious when like the government is contacting me to be like, "Hey, we want to make sure this place is haunted." Like, why is the government, like the actual like government contacted me? So
So they go. So he and his team go out there and they start experiencing all this kind of weird like paranormal phenomena that is just completely unexplainable. Real bright lights that light up the room and all this kind of stuff, and they're capturing a couple of other things. But the one particular thing that they capture is this entity that is shown. And they call him Sir NoFace because it is a camera set up in a room shooting out of a doorway, the room's doorway, into a hallway and kind of into another room. So there's like, oh, here, I'll just show you the angle. This is the angle that they're shooting right here. And at 2:37 in the morning, I think it's like so many hours into this recording, this figure peekaboos around that little corner just once, peekaboos around the corner, and this is what they capture. And he peeks around and he zips back in. And the whole synopsis of this the first portion of the documentary is Chad Kalick basically trying to debunk this piece of evidence. I mean, he grills the team, interviews them, asks them the hard questions. Did you fake it? Would anybody fake it? All that kind of stuff. Gets with a senior CGI person who has done movies like Avengers and Transformers and stuff like that, and gets him to try and recreate it. And anyways, I'm not going to give too much more away because you need to go watch it, but it ends up opening. Kind of one of the questions I had is what Craig Powell said in the documentary. What the hell's happening in these locations when we aren't there? Because nobody was in this building when this thing was captured. It was locked by a security guard. The team was asleep in tents. Nobody was in this building. And so it goes from that documentary. The second one is called I forget the title of it. Sir Gray Two-Face or something. They're both on Discovery
something
Plus.
The Gray. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's like Two-Face the Gray. That's it.
Yeah,
Two-Face the Gray. And so what they end up leading to is go, oh my God, what if this is what we caught is in fact not a full body apparition, but instead a gray alien? Well, because immediately after this, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're fine, man. No.
Immediately after this investigation, immediately after this footage is captured, they're shut down. Government says absolutely no more.
The government shuts them down.
You're not going back. No more. What were you going to say, Ryan?
I was going to say, when Sir NoFace first came out, I remember it was a touring documentary. And I remember it came here to Austin. I went over to Emos. They showed it at Emos, and I remember seeing like the advertisements. They were like the most compelling paranormal evidence you'll ever see, and they wouldn't show you the evidence. They would just show you the reaction videos of the people who saw it. And so I was like, I have to go see this for myself. And Chad Kalick was there and actually did a Q&A and everything afterwards. But I remember seeing that footage. And I'm glad he addressed it in this new documentary, the second documentary, because the first thing I thought is that looked like a gray alien to me. And everyone was just like, I mean, their mind was just so blown that they had this full-bodied apparition of whatever this was that peeked in and dipped back out. But the first thing that crossed my mind, and then Chad Kalick in the Two-Face the Gray documentary was talking about touring it around, that a lot of people said, hey, that looks like a gray. And that was the first thing that came across my mind before I even thought about ghosts or anything else. I was like, that's a fucking gray, so.
And I'm sorry, I was looking up the names. It is Two-Face the Gray. Mm-hmm. And so Sir NoFace and Two-Face the Gray, both of those are on Discovery Plus.
Mm-hmm.
Now they do have a third one. I was trying to get to the name while you were talking because I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called. It is on Tubi. I do know that, which is a free app that you can download. But it brings in, so then they move from like the alien aspect of it to like conspiracy theory out the freaking wazoo.
And conspiracy
I am talking, they pull in like world leaders and that Hitler is involved and the Nazi program and the design of the Nazi Bell and the Antarctica expedition and the bronze people in Antarctica that were I mean, I was watching it the whole time just like, what the hell am I watching? Because not only does he present all of this to you and how it all kind of ties in together, but there's like, he's throwing up like supportive documentation as well. And I'm just like, oh shit. I got to rethink my life and reevaluate my existence real quick.
I mean,
so I want to hear from y'all though. Like when y'all watched them, were you awestruck? What was your initial like reaction to it?
Yeah, I mean, my jaw hit the floor, man. I was like you. I was like, I'm reevaluating everything I think about all this. I mean, it's just so much information that is thrown at you, but it's supported and documented in the documentary that they have. And man, I just, because, I grew up listening to Coast AM. And, I would hear things about like the Nazi Bell, and I would hear things about like some of these things that they kind of were talking about in this documentary. I would hear, these stories, like all these different authors who had written books about these things would come on and talk. But in the documentary, it showed how they were all connected and how everything came together. And like I said, I was just awestruck. I mean, before I knew it, the documentary was over, and I was just like, "Oh, that's it."
Yeah, and adding one more thing in there, Shelley, for you to answer about what your initial thoughts were, was that I mean, it covers even more than just the conspiracy theory and the aliens and the ghost. I mean, the Men in Black are brought into this. I mean, he is stalked at one point by somebody who he doesn't know who it is. It is so freaking fast. Chad Kalick, that is stalked by somebody who doesn't know.
Craig Powell was too.
Well, yeah, that's right. Craig Powell was too. I totally forgot about that little segment. But anyways, Shelley, what were your initial thoughts on it when you watched it?
So, my first thing I did, pause it, take a screenshot, try to zoom it in, try to look for everything. And I have not completed watching the second, the two, what's it called? Two Faces the Gray?
Two-Face the Gray, which is on Discovery Plus, and the third one is Phantom Rider on Tubi.
There you go. I've not seen Phantom Rider. I have seen Sir NoFace, and first thing I did, just zoom it in, start looking at it, trying to debunk it, trying to see if I could see anything. It did impress me that they did go and make the effort to debunk it. That actually, to me, brings credibility to what they caught. The fact that they're trying to say, is there anything else? Which again, that's what we do. We don't want to bring you something and then have someone turn around and go, oh, look, I can make that happen just by doing this.
Right.
I like the fact that he was making every effort to make sure that this is legitimate and a legitimate capture. Also fascinating that, like you said, that Australia shut them down. They couldn't film there anymore and shut the whole thing down.
The whole
now,
thing.
we do know that in certain areas that whenever things happen, and again, if you want to talk conspiracy, that kind of thing, governments tend to suddenly deem things, state land, or turn things into states parks, or designate to, hey, this is now part of a military base. When things are going on and something is unexplained and the government feels that they need to hide, keep secret, or protect, funny how suddenly this is now a state park. Really? A lot of places where treasures are rumored to be buried has suddenly been turned into state parks where you can't dig in state parks. That's government land. So there are a lot of things that I find interesting about that, because the government alone just shutting it down means that the government deemed that there was something there that needed to be protected or covered up or concealed from the public.
Yep.
So I like this one. I liked how he did his homework. I like that every aspect that, even, I mean, I thought, oh, well, you know what? He could probably recreate that if he tried everything I could think of too. And I'm going, okay, so I will say, I think that his evidence he got was absolutely legitimate in Sir NoFace. I really do. And that's real hard for me to say. Trust me, it pains me a little bit. But I think his evidence was absolutely legitimate. I truly do.
I'll agree with you on that. 100%.
And it is frightening. Whenever you actually see it, it's scary.
And the thing is too, like you were saying, like, he does his due diligence when he is trying to debunk this, like that, like he hammers Craig Powell to the point where I think there's a couple times I think Craig Powell's going to cry, because
or take a swing at him
because he's like, look, I captured, this is legit, this, and but Chad Kalick has to protect his reputation. He is a very respected paranormal investigator, and I remember him telling him, is like, look, you tell me right freaking now if this is fake, because if it is, I'm going to find out you're fake. If you are faking this, I'm going to find this out. So you might as well tell me right now, because it gets pretty heated.
Yeah.
And, and he's like, no, absolutely not. It's not fake.
Yeah. He tells him, he was like, we're going to see if this is real. And if it's real, it's stuff that'll change the world. He's like, but if it is fake and you have hoaxed this, that is something I am also going to tell the world, is that you are a fake. And I agree with you, Shelley, that 100%. I believe this evidence to be 100% real.
It's credible.
I mean, when they do go through the CGI process, and even trying to do the CGI process, you can just tell it doesn't look right. It doesn't look.
They got real.
Doesn't match up to anything that they captured on the actual island.
Right.
Here's the thing: the CGI could not duplicate it.
Right.
They got close, but they could not duplicate it. And that's where the difference lies. If it's hoax, that means someone can recreate it exactly.
Right.
And no one could duplicate it, and no one could debunk it. And it trust me, they put them through the paces. And that was something I found fascinating. I liked this. I have to tell you, it started off a little slow for me, but then after they got going, I was in, I was with it, I was rolling. And whenever they finally reveal the capture, you sit there. Number one, I got chills all over me, but then I did too. Wait a minute, the hell with this. I bet I can figure out what this is. And the more you got to where you couldn't figure it out, and they show you it again, right before the end of it, that's when it really hits of how truly creepy it is.
Yeah.
So I recommend Sir NoFace.
And I will say the reason why, I mean, I instant chills whenever, I think we were just happened to be talking about it on the phone, and we were all planning on watching it. Ryan, you, I believe we all watched it together.
Yeah, I had seen it, and I asked you guys, like, have you seen this? You have to watch this documentary.
And I remember specifically that night being on the phone with y'all, and Ryan's like, oh, just, go back and watch it, but scroll to blah, blah, blah time frame, and you will see what they captured. And I was on the phone with y'all with my reaction. I went, oh, shit. Because instant.
You actually got unnerved.
You did.
I did.
Unnerved.
I did. And the reason why is because I've experienced this myself with not to that degree, with what is captured in the way that it peeks around the corner. I have experienced that with my own eyes in my own house. And that was after a Yorktown stint. I've told y'all this story, sitting up in bed one morning, because that's where I drink my coffee and watch the news. And just happened to be looking right at the TV, and the doorway is just off to the right of that. And I just see this thing just very quickly.
In the room I like to stay in.
Yeah.
It
was in my hallway.
Oh, in the hallway.
It was in my hallway. It was right next to the master bedroom doorway. The only exit to the room. And in my head, I was like,
shit, I'm trapped.
I'm just going to pretend like I didn't see you. I'm not going to acknowledge you.
Was it about the same heights too?
This one was in between, I would say a little bit higher than halfway, but not quite to like 3/4 of the way up. I'm looking at a door frame right now. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
Not quite 3/4 of the way up a door frame. Like, I don't know, probably about maybe 5 feet.
Yeah,
somewhere in there. 5 foot tall, solid black, and it just ever so slightly but it did not have the movement as this did. It wasn't as fluid as Sir NoFace is. I mean, it literally just kind of tilted its head in, and that's the creepier part about Sir NoFace is the fluidity of the movement of
and
how
the
it's
full
captured.
Body.
It's
The full body, but
the fluidity itself, you can just tell is not natural and or human.
No, not at all.
It's as flowing as the movement of water. It's just, I mean, there's no jerks. There's no. It's just, and
it's one solid motion almost. Like it's. Yeah, I can tell you from being in a crowd of people seeing that for the first time when I saw it, everyone was just like floored when they saw it. There were like people who had their hand over their mouth, and there were people who were just like head tilted sideways, like everybody's mouth was wide open.
It unnerved the shit out of me. And and I will say, I'm gonna toot someone's horn that's on this podcast right now. There's only one other piece of evidence that I have seen that has actually unnerved me and chicken skin me that fucking quick, and that is one of Shelley's pieces of evidence, and that is the nurse or the lady holding the baby, not your shadow figure,
not the gunslinger.
Nope. And I think it's just because
the story that goes with it.
It's not just not necessarily the story. It's because it's so close to being human. Like the gunslinger, it's a shadow. Okay, it's a shadow. It doesn't really. I mean, it's cool.
The lady holding the baby's a shadow too.
I know, but it's the fact that defined. You can see so much kind of detail in her, and that's really been like the only other one that I'd like instantly kind of unnerved me and chicken skinned me at the same time. But it made me feel at peace a little bit just because of the story that you have that goes with it. Now, the gunslinger, super badass, probably best piece of freaking evidence I think I've ever seen from our team. I'm just going to be honest, besides the door closing on its own. I don't know. We had the top 23 like 2 weeks ago. Go watch that. We fought over placement of those. We did our top 23 best paranormal pieces of evidence. But anyways, I'll just say that's been the only other one that's really kind of with this group.
But now you've seen my full body apparition where you can see the details of the lady's hair and all that, and you like the nurse with less details, or the lady holding the baby with less details. It
has something to do with the almost human-like. It's like you can see her legs, you can see it, but she's just enough defined, but not enough defined that it's just there's a mystery about it. And things like that kind of unnerve me. It's almost like the incomplete picture. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's like my brain can make out what it is, but I don't see all the detail. And that's why this Sir NoFace unnerved me as much as it did, because you can freaking tell it's a figure, but you can't make out any freaking detail.
It's something.
It's something. So those are our 3 recommendations. If you have a little downtime, mine is a snack size. It's 1 episode. Go watch it. That's Sleepless Unrest. Ryan's is a 2-part series, Hellier, and that
You're
is
gonna
if you
spend some
want
time.
to. Yeah, you're going to spend some time on that. And then Blake has given you a 3-peat. You've got Sir NoFace. You have Two-Face the Gray, and what did you say the third one was?
Phantom Rider, and that one
Phantom Rider.
Tubi. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So if you have something that you want to watch, you're looking for something to watch, some kind of paranormal thing that maybe you haven't heard of, if you haven't seen any of these, they're worth taking a time if you like paranormal documentaries and documentary filmmaking. And all of them are very raw, like that's their footage, straight off, not manipulated. Here it is. And you get to see what they actually captured. And it is good, like found footage kind of documentary filmmaking on all of them. So I hope that you guys enjoyed that. And I hope that you have a place to go and watch them this weekend or something.
Yeah. If you have any questions about where any of these are at or located so you can watch them, just message us. We'll tell you. But if you have one that you have watched that you would like for us to watch, now I will tell you. It is super hard to find one that we haven't seen. But if you think you have one, by all means, put it in the comments, message it to the Facebook page or YouTube, wherever you may be watching from.
I'm going to tell you right now, you better dig deep because it's going to have to be one that hasn't been put out in the last 20 years for one of the three of us not to
just
stay
off
that one.
Just stay off of Discovery Plus.
Yeah, if it's on Discovery Plus, History Channel, Smithsonian Channel,
we synced it.
ID channel or Travel Channel, I've probably seen it. Amazon Prime, I've probably seen it. HBO, I've probably seen it. So now if you find one though, or one that you're just truly fascinated with that maybe I might have overlooked, give it your best shot. So I look forward to see what you guys think we haven't seen.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I can't wait because I'm always looking for something new and cool to watch.
It's a challenge.
Blow my mind.
Yeah.
We're a hard sell, but if you send us something cool, we'll shout you out.
Oh yeah, if you have one, let us know. Well, y'all, thanks for joining us. Remember, wherever you may be watching us from, whatever social media channel you are on currently, we are across all social media channels. We are not just on the one that you are currently watching, and we utilize all different social media channels for different reasons. So make sure you go follow us across the board. And also don't forget that the Gregg County Historical Museum ghost hunt tickets in Longview, Texas are on sale. That is on June the 11th from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. So if you would like to join us, if you missed out on the first one, it was a really good night. Tickets are only $70. You can head over to our Facebook and find the link. We will also be reposting that very soon. And Shelly, take it away.
And if you just can't get enough of us, there's a place you can go and get some more, and that's on Patreon. And we have one tier, it's $5 a month, and you get all the pre-broadcast. You get Spirits with Shelly, you get Ryan's reviews, and you get Bedtime with Blake. As soon as Blake gets one up there on their board, I'm calling you out, boy.
I know, I got to get one.
But you can go and we do all of our pre-broadcast there. That's the only place that you can find the pre-broadcast. And also Patreon members get information before they go out. We put it on the broadcast. So if you want to see what we really talk about, because I'd love to say we talk about the show on the pre-broadcast, not usually. So, but if you would like to see what we do talk about, I guarantee if you want to laugh, tune in and watch those. But I'm not talking about what we talked about for this one. And what else, Ryan? What else can they do?
Go to Spotify and rate us, and go to Apple Music and rate and review us, because that boosts our signal and more people will see us, and the more we can bring you guys if you boost our signal. Please, please, please do that. I would love to see.
Share and subscribe with your friends.
Absolutely.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe on Facebook. Follow us on Facebook. And the more subscriptions on YouTube, the easier it'll be to find us. Number one, and number two, that's going to get some attention, just like it already has.
And if you just like share us with two of your friends, just share us with two of your friends and have them come and check us out.
Absolutely. Well, y'all, thanks so much for joining us. For my friends on the screen with me, Miss Shelly Pruitt and Mr. Ryan Roberts, I am Blake Smith. And as always, we will see you